When GDPR came into effect, a lot of people were scared and confused, mostly because there has been a ton of misinformation out there on the internet. And while this isn't legal advice, I want to walk through all of the things GDPR and how to deal with GDPR compliance for your Mailchimp account. So, if you weren't aware, there's a law that came into place May 25th, 2018, called the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. So, GDPR actually has a lot of myths perpetuated about it. But the good thing is, Mailchimp makes it easy for you to deal with GDPR regulations. And I'll note too that the EU typically is not coming for you unless you're Google or Facebook, both of whom got fined for around 4 billion euros each. So they want the giant offenders for good reason. Those companies do bad things with your data. They're not really after small business owners. And even if they are, even if your site or list are not compliant, fines of 4 billion euros are not the first thing that happens. There are no squad of EU goons waiting to kick down your door. The process for non-compliancy looks like this. There's a first step where your users or visitors take the issue up with you directly. Then, if you don't comply, they probably file a complaint. Then the GDPR regulators will tell you you have to be in compliance. And then if you don't do that, any number of times, you'll probably get faced with a lawsuit, but the lawsuit isn't the first thing that happens. And even still, people and regulators aren't really looking for small business owners to be punished. GDPR exists because companies like Google and Facebook do awful things with all of our data. So let's look at some myths. The first one is you don't actually need to send a re-engagement email to everyone on your list. You can. But if you can prove consent, or if you can prove that you have lawful grounds for having and using their email, you don't need to send a re-engagement email. So with Mailchimp, you can prove they opt in because you have a date and time when they subscribed in Mailchimp. It'll typically show the source of the opt-in, like a landing page or a pop-up or something else, and you're able to screenshot it as proof, which is easy to do. You screenshot the contact page in Mailchimp of that contact. So you don't really need to send a re-engagement email unless your sign-up form didn't clearly explain what they were signing up for. In that case, you probably did need to send that re-engagement email. The second myth is that you need to add those GDPR consent boxes to every sign-up form. And in Mailchimp, it's a toggle to add GDPR consent boxes to every form. They're kind of ugly and they kind of take up a whole lot of space, but you don't really need them. So instead, if you make sure your form or landing page clearly communicates how you will be processing their personal data using a descriptive sentence or two, or even using a checkbox if you want, then just tell people what they're going to get if they sign up and how often they're going to receive emails. Then you don't need to add all that ugly form data to every form on your website. The third myth is that you always have to use double opt-in to be compliant. So you don't have to do that unless you live in a country where other laws demand it, like Germany. So as I mentioned in the first myth, GDPR simply requires that you can prove compliant consent. So the act of entering personal information into a sign-up form and clicking submit or subscribe is considered an affirmative action as long as the subscriber was clearly and directly informed what they were accepting. So if you say, sign up for my weekly mailing list, and they enter in their email and click submit, and you send them a weekly email, then that's good. Then you're doing what you need to do. You don't have to use double opt-in. Double opt-in is more for if you're getting a lot of spam or robots signing up for your list. The fourth myth is that subscriber data in Mailchimp isn't your responsibility. So it kind of is. It kind of really is. So data processors like Mailchimp And data controllers like you, the person who owns the list, share responsibility for compliance to GDPR. So it's not an option to pass responsibility just to Mailchimp, who is processing data on your behalf. If you do sketchy things with your list and break the law, you are at risk of repercussions, whether through GDPR or any other laws that protect consumers from spam or bad things. I actually really think that GDPR, and this isn't a popular opinion, but GDPR is a good thing for newsletters. It comes down to doing the right thing with the personal data you collect. People's email addresses and their inbox are a precious commodity. You have to treat that with care. So only send emails to people who have given you permission, and only email them with the purpose you told them you were going to email them for. So GDPR helps get rid of spammers, and it helps find people like Facebook and Google who are doing awful things with our data. So what can we do here? Well, we can make sure that we can prove consent to send emails from ourselves and from our business. We can allow people to contact us by hitting reply to any of our newsletters if they want the right to be deleted or forgotten, which is within their right to do so. And finally, we can be prepared to provide details to any contact who wants a copy of their data, which is also part of the GDPR protection law. So that's it. That's GDPR. Is not as scary as I think some people think it is. Thank you so much for watching.